praying.
So what's the lesson here? This is not a pointless story. The lesson here is calm down.
Yeah.
The guy was 1 minute late and people called the bishop of a diocese. You're going to bother a bishop rather than wait 60 seconds. The priest is going to be here. Oh, there's no priest. And then 3-4 priests were like stressing out about trying to, like, this guy was...
I left a funeral.
Left a funeral to deal with this. Calm down. You guys panic for nothing. Just breathe. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So with Bishop Sarhad, through his enthusiasm and his devotion and his love of the liturgy, made me realize what the liturgy is. And in that, and all of that, a person looked at another person and said, I want to be a priest. So that's like, it makes me think about my own journey of priesthood, my own identity as a priest. Like, I think a mark of impact or success, if you want to call it that, is like at the end of your priesthood or at some point in your priesthood. Can a young man look at you and say, I want to be a priest because of his example of the love of Christ and his devotion to the liturgy?
Yeah, and we see the fruits of it now. I mean, there's
So the bit is that we're discussing is that I think ever since the very first year of the seminary,
Yeah, man.
you were definitely in the seminary, you and Father Tito. First year of the seminary, Valentine's Day show comes. It may not have been the very first year, maybe have been the first, like, you guys.
Yeah.
Valentine's Day comes, and in my brain, I'm like, Valentine's Day is kind of like dumb, but it's also like bad for seminarians, you know, that everyone's on a date, whatever. So, okay, you know what? Let's go get some Thai food. And I just found out about this place called Spice and Rice in La Jolla that used to be really good. It's kind of like, you know. And so we just went out and we got Thai food on Valentine's Day. And then the next year, like, oh, you know what we should do again? We went again.
Yeah.
And this is 15 years in a row.
Dude,
I'm pretty
crazy,
sure.
bro.
2008, let's say 2009. Oh, yeah. This would be like the 15th or 16th year that every single year, all the seminarians and whoever priest wants to come goes to get Thai food. And we did it this year. It was good.
Hopefully
For the bit. We do it for the bit.
they bleep out the name of the restaurant and just for the bit.
They can leave that one because it's not as good anymore.
Okay.
I just like to protect the ones that I really like, the really good ones.
What was the bit you were talking about on that day we were at the Thai food place?
I don't know.
Because one of the seminarians was like, why do you do that? And then he was so confused because you just said for the bit. Like, literally, that is the reason why you do it.
What was the thing he was asking me about?
I don't remember.
About what you do.
But what is it that I do?
I don't know. But Father Danny, one of his bits is he pretends to not know what a bit is. Remember that? He spent about a year or two doing that. And then we broke him. I think we broke him.
Yeah.
If it comes back to me, we can talk.
Just interrupt whatever we're talking about.
Whatever we're talking about.
I can't believe you missed Mass this morning, man.
I know. Crazy, man.
Tell that story, please. Tell it from your perspective.
From your perspective.
My perspective?
Because all I saw was, I was like mind blown when I saw your text. I was mind blown. When you put a question mark, like that's the first thing you put, I was like, what in the world is happening?
Okay,
right
please.
now?
I want from your perspective.
So I left St. Joseph's today around like 9:45, a little later than usual to come to St. John's. So I was running a little late this morning.
And you were covering Mass for Father Enkidu, who's
No,
in
usually
Europe.
I do this.
Oh,
Mass,
this is your okay.
Like I do Tuesday mornings at St. John's
Okay.
and Chaldean. No, that's
Okay.
I'm on the schedule here for that. So I'm running a little late. I'm like, I'm gonna make it. I'll be a minute or two late. So I ended up being like a minute or two late. And I see the shamash outside. There's one of them. Say hi. Walk in. I vest. Go in. Celebrate Mass. You know, I finished around 10:30. I come outside of Mass. I check my phone. And I see our priest chat is being blown up. There's no priest to do Mass at St. John's.
And we thought it was supposed to be somebody else. I was like, I was going and looking for him, and you were calling
So
everybody.
Father Simon sent a priest. So that priest walked in during the communion rite. I was really, really confused when he walked in. I'm like, oh, maybe
really?
he's just here for something after. There's a prayer or something that they invited him for. And then...
He was in a funeral too.
Anyway, so yeah. And I guess the word got back that nobody came to Mass at St. John's. Somebody called somebody. And then I got back to the priest and everyone was panicking. All the while, I was celebrating the sacrifice of the Mass. Praying
So
for
what's the
everybody.
lesson here? This is not a pointless story. The lesson here is calm down.
Yeah.
The guy was 1 minute late and people called the bishop of a diocese. You're going to bother a bishop rather than wait 60 seconds. The priest is going to be here. Oh, there's no priest. And then 3-4 priests were like stressing out about trying to, like, this guy was
I left a funeral.
left a funeral to deal with this. Calm down. You guys panic for nothing. Just breathe. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We still don't know who it was that kind of.
Yeah, I don't know.
Whatever.
It doesn't matter. But what matters is that, like, yeah, people really do need to chill. And like, Father Makito is gone. Father Makito was here. This would never happen. You know, very simply speaking, he'd call me or I'd call him. When, I'm running a few minutes late. Simple. End of story.
Yeah.
But since Father Makito is in Rome,
Where is he right now? Yeah, I saw him
He's
in
in
front of the
Rome.
Colosseum.
Yeah.
he's in Rome. So
Have you ever been to Rome?
when the shepherd is gone, the flock, you know.
Yeah, the sheep-
Scatters.
the sheep will scatter. But the another thing about the panicking, this happens to me like whenever I'm teaching like Chaldean or something like that, or any language I'm teaching, and I'll say, yeah, the word for good, you know, there's an adjective, you say tawa, and then like later on in the later chapter, oh, the word for like how you doing, I'm doing well, randa, and you can also say tawa, randa, and then like I say, this is how you say this, and people in my class will panic like there's a comet about to hit the earth, and they're like, I thought the word for good was tawa, and I'm like, have you never heard of a synonym? You know that words have, you know, languages have two words for the same thing. Like you already know that. And you're about to like, I don't know what, like lose your mind, go like jump off a bridge because there was a word that you thought meant, just, it's okay. Breathe. People just panic out of nowhere. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what runs politics these days. They just panic over everything.
Yeah.
Panic culture.
Panic culture, yeah. Oh my gosh.
So,
I went to Rome. You asked if we went to
yeah.
Rome. I went to Rome twice. One was for a pilgrimage, and I regret it. I said
With a group from
with
church?
a group of people, and I said I'm never going to do an overseas trip again, and I haven't. I learned my lesson. The second time, I went to Rome 3 times actually. The second time was Bishop Sarhad invited me to go and kind of be a sort of note taker, to like kind of help
Yeah.
with the computer stuff for the 2006 reform
Yeah.
of the Mass.
That's crazy.
So that was November 2005. And so what we would do, so it was me and Father Rayan, who was studying in Rome at the time. And during the day, the Chaldean Synod would meet and they would review the Reformed liturgy. And they would say, okay, they would go through a certain section or whatever. And then the bishops would talk about and vote on, you know what, we want this instead of this, make this change, or whatever. And so the committee, Bishop Sarhad, Bishop Jack Ishaq, Monsignor Patros Yusuf, they would come to Father Rayan and I after the end of the meeting, and they would tell us this is what the bishop decided, and me and Father Rayan would stay up late into the night and make the changes on the Word doc because we had typed it out by then. So he would make the changes in like the Aramaic, and I would translate it and make the changes in English. So every night we would do that. We were up till 2-3 in the morning every night. So they'd make the change, do this, do that, do this, do that. I actually have records of every single. I was looking through Alam Hasid, Bishop Sarhad's books and papers that he left to the seminary, and I was looking through his notes, and he had like thorough notes, every single change that was made day by day by the synod that we changed in the Word document. So there's like really clear records of that. So that was another time in Rome. But what was fun about that is during the day, the synod was meeting. We had nothing to do. I would just walk around Rome, chill.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
And then the third time in Rome, last time I went, even overseas. No, the last time I went to Rome was 2012, the thing I mentioned in my eulogy, when he gave that talk on Ede and Mari. Yeah.
That was amazing what you mentioned, man. And it really reminded me of every time he would give us a lesson, he always pointed it back to Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, and the story that you mentioned was when he was doing the talk on Ede and Mari, and there are all these scholars that were giving interpretations and information from scholars, but then he was talking about Jesus, and that was
the Last Supper
and the Last Supper,
and St. Paul's receiving from the Lord, and he gives us the structure of the Mass. And it just, I don't think anything imprinted. He's taught me a lot, but nothing imprinted in my understanding of the faith as much as that aspect.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is, you would assume everybody does that. But even people that are like, oh, Bible this, Bible that, it's more about Bible commentaries. It's more about interpretation. But like, let's just go to Christ himself. Let's just try to understand him directly.
For example, like something that's always stuck with me that you taught me, and I've heard Bishop Sarhad also teach this, which is about why the Eucharistic section of the liturgy is split up into 4 parts.
Yeah.
because Jesus, those 4 verbs are mentioned specifically. He took, blessed, broke, and gave. These were like code words that were used and that were written down at the Last Supper, and then by St. Paul. And Jesus said, "Do this."
Yeah, do these
I remember
4
Bishop
things.
Sarhad.
These 4 things.
Do this in memory of me. And he used to say, "What is this? What is the this?"
Yeah.
Look at what he did right before that.
Yeah.
And so that's how closely he would read the scriptures, and and it really helped.
He even noticed, and I don't know if I have not seen anybody notice this, any liturgical scholar or biblical scholar. I'm sure somebody else has, but I haven't seen anybody else who noticed it. He noticed and this is his paper in 2012 was related to this. In the Gospel of Matthew and Mark, it says Jesus took the bread and blessed and gave it to his disciples. And then he took the cup and he gave thanks. It's only in Mark and Matthew. In Paul and in Luke, it says the same thing over both the bread and the wine. And so there's
he
this
blessed and
distinction.
gave thanks.
Yeah. And so it's a distinction only in Mark and Matthew, and Mark is probably the earliest one. So so he was kind of noticing that, and I don't think anybody there had noticed that. And it's like we had read this a million times as the Gospels, and it never clicked that he's more precise than we give him credit for. Anyway, these are some memories of Bishop Sarhad that I have over the years. I have a lot of them. I could talk forever.
What about you guys? He's your cousin, right?
He is, yeah.
Did you know that he's mine too, kind of?
I didn't
He
know
would
that.
tell me that. He's related to my great grandma. Like there's something there. I mean, he's obviously closer to you and your family,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, just growing up as a little kid, I remember seeing him at some of our family gatherings, and when he came, when he was bishop here, and before I joined the seminary, he was the first, he was the bishop that I met with when I was, really taking it seriously, and then by then he had retired. So afterwards, though, later on, he would come and teach classes at the seminary. And he would talk about these exact things you guys.
did you join while? You didn't join while he was still a
I didn't
bishop.
join while he was He had.
But you
he had
met with
just
him,
retired.
and then he retired.
He retired. Yeah. But just he has a lot of wisdom that he wanted to share and to spread. He wasn't like gatekeeping anything. Clearly, he really wanted to spread the truth with others, especially liturgically, for the good of the church, which is amazing. It's very beautiful. He's, I think, impacted all of our lives and building this fire for the liturgy and really caring about it, right? So when we see either mistakes or when we see the liturgy mistreated, it offends us to a great degree. And I think he showed us all why it's so important and why it should offend us if there's something wrong with it, right?
We should care about it.
We should care about it.
That's one of the things that I always remembered that, kind of stuck in my mind that he would say, which is, if you can't be orderly,
Serious, right? He would say.
and serious in front of God, which is what the liturgy is. Like, this is how we present ourselves to God. Then how can you be serious in front of people? It's like, so it starts with God. So that's like the most important thing in the world is the liturgy. It's the worship of God. And so get that right. Don't let that be mkharabat, right?
Messed up.
If that's messed up, then
Everything else will
what
be.
does it say about yourself and about your life?
There's a lot to say for me too, and it's actually very hard to talk about because, again, of the weight of the impact that he's had on our lives, and because of how many years I spent around him. The first time he got close to me was after my dad passed away. My mom, turned to the church and everything as a source of support, and I started serving as a shamash, as like a little server on the altar at Chaldean Mass. So he got close to me, he got close to my mom and my family, and I was very surprised by this specifically. He would offer help to my mom consistently as a source of support for her, because he, realized she's by herself. She has these 4 young kids to take care of, and to see a bishop doing that was just crazy to me, because I don't think that usually happens. That kind of level of closeness of fatherhood with the flock. But more than that, as the years went on and our relationship with him developed, it comes back to the Mass, like you guys are saying. I did not know what the Mass was before him. I did not know what it meant to be a Chaldean Catholic before him. I don't know like what our identity was. I don't know what the word liturgy means. I didn't know what the Mass is, how the Mass is supposed to affect you, how you're supposed to experience God really through the Mass. And through like series of lectures that he did, things that he wrote, all of that enriched not only me, but everybody that was around him that took it seriously, like you guys are saying. And it's beautiful how it culminates in that. If you're not serious in front of God, if you're not serious with your identity that God allows you to have, what are you doing? Where are you going? Who are you? So all these years, just thinking about what he's said, it's been crazy to see that he's not around anymore, even though these last several years he was retired. The fact that he's not physically around makes you feel like something in the world is missing. Something serious is missing. There was this one day, like I think it was the day after we learned that he passed away. I was preaching the homily in daily mass, and it clicked so well, like who he was to me. There was the passage about, I think it's in Mark's gospel. There's that man who was paralyzed. Jesus was in a house. It was very crowded. There was no room to get in. So his friends are the ones that are taking him to the ceiling, so that they make a hole in the ceiling and drop him in, so that it's through their act of faith, their active moving of their faith, that Jesus has the opportunity to meet this man and to heal him. It shows how people in our lives, through their strength and their faith, can contribute to our salvation. So with Bishop Sarhad, through his enthusiasm and his devotion and his love of the liturgy, made me realize what the liturgy is. And in that, and all of that, a person looked at another person and said, I want to be a priest. So that's like, it makes me think about my own journey of priesthood, my own identity as a priest. Like, I think a mark of impact or success, if you want to call it that, is like at the end of your priesthood or at some point in your priesthood. Can a young man look at you and say, I want to be a priest because of his example of the love of Christ and his devotion to the liturgy?
Yeah. And we see the fruits of it now. I mean, there's so many fruits because he responded to the call of the Lord. And I mean, we have our seminary, and, you know, all of us were ordained out of it, and so many things.
You know what Father Chris was talking, and you made me think of something else. I mean, we're saying the good stuff, and it's right to think of the good stuff, but he was really controversial. A lot of people disagreed with him. He said things that people didn't like, you know, and in his mind, he's telling the truth. And I think he was very smart, and he made his case really well, but people still disagreed with some of the things he did and said. And yet, the people that knew him at all, even if they disagreed with him, they still respected him. It's the people, and there are some people that are disrespectful. They're the people that don't know him, that never met him. Because even if he says something that you don't like, if he does something you disagree with, but like, he's a father, and he's very fatherly when it comes to a personal thing. Yeah. He's pastoral. And even if he can be kind of rough and mean sometimes, I remember that we all kind of experienced that, but he's doing it. He's human. He makes mistakes. He's whatever, imperfect. Who isn't? Yeah. And so like, okay, he had his imperfections, but still, you knew there was a great love that he had for Christ, for the church, and somehow even for you, because you're not willing. Nobody would be willing to make the effort to tell a harsh truth if they didn't actually care about you. If I don't care about you, okay, whatever. I'm not going to bother myself. You're going to get upset. You're going to be mad. No, but if I care enough about you to maybe share something with you that is challenging, to help form you, to help kind of expand your mind, to show you that things are maybe different than you think, even if you're gonna get upset, you're worth it to me to deal with that, because the truth is worth it, and you're worth it because I care about it. I think that's a kind of rare love that you see today. Yeah.
Someone who loves you doesn't only tell you what you should want to hear, but they tell you the truth. Yeah. And that's what he did. And he never backed down from that always. You know, no matter what the opinions were, no matter what the people said about him, that's something so respectable, is that he always stood his ground.
Yeah.
He knew the truth and he defended it so well and with such dignity and strength.
You know, another thing I was kind of touched by in the days of the funeral and the viewing and all that stuff, I got a lot of messages from people saying sorry for
my
your
condolences.
loss.
I know
So
that was that was cool.
I felt really weird about that because I didn't feel like it's something I would expect to hear. It wasn't like my relative or something like that. But to what Father Andy just said, to attest to that, people from the community who were not necessarily that connected with him or that close with him could see how much he affected us, to tell us, my condolences, sorry for your loss. And it was like cool to hear that from people. I was touched by that, but I think it attests to what you're saying.
I remember one time, this was very, very interesting. There was a period of time in the diocese where there was this, I mean, our diocese has gone through a lot, but there was a period of time when there was like drama and people were talking, and there was a lot of like very, very ugly talking going on about people and whatever. And I think it was when the Marbawe, like the unity kind of movement, and that all happened during those years. And man, some people just didn't like that. It went against their ideology in one way or the other and whatever. And there was so many lies being spewed and spewed and spewed about Bishop Sarhad, about Marbawe, and about all this stuff and whatever. Just lie upon lie. And people will hear it. And if the person who's telling the lie is confident, they believe it. And now the lie is spreading. And so I remember this very, very interesting moment. It was one of the people that was very responsible for those lies. I don't know if it was somebody with a radio show or something like that. And I remember this person visited San Diego, and he asked to see Bishop Sarhad. After everything was done, he asked to see him. And so he went and saw him, and Bishop Sarhad said, "Oh, why don't you come sit with us at this meeting?" I was around, whatever. So I sat, and this guy wept. I don't remember his name. I don't remember. I think there was like pictures of it somewhere, but like this guy was crying, and he said, "I want to apologize. Like I was one of the people that spread these lies about you, and it just hit me how much damage I was doing, and I was just saying things, and people were believing me, and he drove down just to say sorry to Bishop Sarhad." And I remember after everything was done, and Bishop said, of course I accept your apology. You're my son. I love you, whatever. And then as they were walking out, I think I have pictures of this somewhere. The guy knelt out in the parking lot of St. Peter's and asked Bishop Sarhad for his blessing, just to sort of show how sorry he was. So I was like, my gosh, a beautiful moment. So like you go through it and like whatever, you tell the truth, and people are not going to like it, and they're going to react badly. But then you just be consistent, keep loving, keep letting Christ be first, and then whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
That was a really dramatic moment.
Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned, Father Chris, I mean, really, he taught me what it means to be a Chaldean Catholic. And I remember during my late high school and especially during seminary times, just being formed by the Chaldean liturgy. It's like, this is your mother. And your mother is going to teach you and is going to feed you. And I remember just my first experience of that was just such a beautiful thing, man. I mean, like you learn to love it very much. What the Chaldean church fathers have to offer us, and what the liturgy has to say, and the beautiful prayers, and so this is really one of the biggest fruits of it, is that this is going to be handed on to generations. And obviously, the first one that kind of did that was Father Andy. The first kind of link to the next generation from Mar Sarhad to us, right?
You know what was, for me, it wasn't even though he was my pastor at St. Joseph's, but it was more just experiencing it with total ignorance, not really even knowing what's going on. But I just experienced it, and there was something. I remember one of the things that was very impactful as a young man, I must have been 15 or 16, when they opened the new church at St. Joseph's in Michigan, and they blessed it, and it became this very kind of ecumenical event, because Patriarch Bidawid was in town for it. I don't know if he came in for it. I think maybe he came in for it to bless this new church.
What year was this?
95 or 96.
Okay.
There's records of it.
And you were like a
And I was a
kid.
little kid. I was like
Yeah.
in high school, not even thinking about seminary that seriously yet. And so Mar Raphael was there, Bidawid. Mar Dincha was invited as well. So now the Assyrian patriarch and the Chaldean patriarch are there at that church blessing, and then all kinds of bishops and like at least 100 shemashim, maybe more. Okay. And what do? We sit in the bema, which was this architectural thing that was at St. Joseph's at the time that Bishop Sarhad had put at the time. We sit in the bema and we prayed Ramsha. And so now you have two patriarchs and a bunch of bishops. Like, I think the whole bema was filled up with just bishops and maybe a couple priests. That's how many people were there. Priests. And then I'm like standing in the back, and I have no idea what's going on, but I'm like wearing as a shemash. And that Ramsha, we prayed, and it was like earthquakes, the shemash singing, and they knew it, and these beautiful melodies that you just felt like connected to something so ancient and so beautiful. I didn't understand a single word. I didn't know, like, it was in Gushma, it was in Syriac. I didn't understand what was happening, but you just feel this is something so solemn and so beautiful. And even with that, and it was there that I was like, I want to know more about this. Well, in order to know more about this, at the time, especially, you have to learn the language. Learning that language is not easy. Learning any language is not easy. But okay, you got to do it. And then I joined the seminary, and Bishop Sarhad had taught me all this stuff and the language and everything. And then eventually, I kind of realized, I don't know if anybody else is going to do this, so I have to do it. Like, what I have experienced, I can't expect everybody to learn a whole ancient language just to experience it. So that's when I started translating.
So you learned the language, the old Aramaic,
the old Syriac,
Gushma,
Gushma, so that I could translate the thing that was so touching to me, so that people could experience like for themselves. And once they experience it for themselves, it's not that, well, now they don't have to learn the language. No, now you want to learn it more. You know what I mean? It's motivating even for that. It connects people even to their language and to their roots more. And so I first worked on the first prayer book that was published, I think it was 2008. It was originally called The Book of Before and After, and the subtitle was Prayer in the Assyro-Chaldean Church of the East. That was the subtitle. Bishop Sarhad wrote the preface to that. Little self-published thing. Very bad translation. It's embarrassing to me now, how many years later. Then we came up with new drafts. There was something called the New Babylon Prayer Book. Then eventually the Emmanuel book, which we were using for at least 10 years, right? 11 years. That Bishop said that's kind of, I don't want to say his life's work. He did a lot, but he put so much into that, into kind of a reformed version of our authentic liturgy. So not throwing anything away, but just reorganizing it so that it makes sense. Then this book, I got a couple of author copies, like kind of drafts sent earlier, but the copies of this book arrived the day that he passed away. Remember, we were waiting for him and waiting. Are we going to do it here? New Year's, it didn't. I was waiting, and they could have come anytime between Thanksgiving and like 2 months from now. They were changing the Amazon date to like August just to be safe because they were stuck in customs on the border. They arrived the day that he passed away, which is just very crazy to me. It could have been either one of those events could have happened any day, but they both happened that day. And so this is like a lot of it is inspired by him. He never actually got to see a copy, but you know, the Emmanuel kind of reform is in here as well as the original stuff and all kinds of other things that he worked really hard on and things that are connected to the tradition. So
this is a translation of the Hadra.
A big portion of the Hadra, not all of it.
So what's the Hadra?
The Hadra is our liturgical prayer of morning and evening and night prayer. So the prayer of the hours. And so it's that Ramsha that I was talking about, that evening prayer that I was talking about was from that. And so that's all here in the sort of like the repeating parts are here. It's what this is the volume that was called Kthawa Daqdam Wad Bathar, the book of before and after. It's just a translation of that, plus selections from the Hadra, which is the seasonal stuff that changes. So there's stuff in our prayer that's the same every day or every week or every 2 weeks, and there's the stuff that's different every day or every week. This is all of the repeating stuff and a big selection of the changing stuff. And then introductions, there's like 4 or 5 different like introductions that were printed in the publications of the Hadra that I translated, and then my own little introduction, just kind of like setting it up, and it's called a translator's preface, and then some other random stuff like the readings for Sunday and stuff like that.
By the way, the other day I was sitting in church, and one of the older shamasha who doesn't really know how to pray in English much, obviously, was looking through it because he saw it as a new book in the pews. And he was asking me, so what is this? I said, oh, that's the Onithad Basaliqa, the Basilica hymn. It was like, okay. And what's this? I said, that's Qalat Shahra, the vigil hymn. And then he's like, okay. And then what's this one? I said, that's Lothat Sabra, the morning hymn. And then he said, all those are in here? And he was just like
shocked,
blown away
right?
by it.
Yeah.
So just to make you feel
Thank
better.
you. Feels good.
Yeah.
Actually, it's fun to me when somebody texts me or emails me like, hey, Father, do you have a translation of this? I'm like, yep,
Yeah.
here you go. It's just, again, it's something that I'm like very humbled that I was allowed to do this. But like, it's all here now.
Yeah.
Everything. I just kind of like just compiled all the stuff that I've translated liturgically and just put it here. And like,
So when people want to know what's it like, what's the difference between a Chaldean Catholic and a Roman Rite or Byzantine or Maronite, like what makes the Chaldean Rite and liturgy authentic and distinguished? It's basically like this is kind of like the best
it's a good example
compilation of
yeah.
that.
So what we have, what the expression of a church is in the Church of the East. So this applies to Chaldean Church, the Assyrian Church, both Assyrian churches, the Malabar Church, all of the ones that come from this tradition. That's why there's no sort of national marker on this. It says
Church of the East.
Liturgy of the Hours of the Church of the East, and this is translated for all of those churches to use, for all of them. I'm really trying to be balanced and sensitive to every like sort of nuance in all of them. But what is it that makes the church a church and a kind of tradition? It's the liturgy, the way that it prays. It's in addition to this sort of daily prayer, it's also the sacraments. We have our own understanding, our own expression of what the sacraments are, of how the liturgy of baptism is done. Different than the Greeks or the Roman Rite or whoever. And all of the other sacraments and our own sort of internal governance. We have our own synod, and we always have forever. I mean, I was talking to somebody who really just loves our people and our church and our tradition, and they were kind of frustrated, like, why do we have to be different than like the Syriacs? Because the Syriac Orthodox or the Syriac Catholic communities in Iraq, especially, well, we're definitely like the same people. And sometimes even the speech is very similar or exactly the same. And he's like, oh, it's kind of like frustrating. And like, oh, I wish there wasn't this division. But it's like, there always was. It wasn't like because of the Church of the East just always had its own governance, even before any accusations of heresy. It was in union with the rest of the church. If you look at the Synod of Isaac, we received people from Antioch representing the rest of the church and received the Council of Nicaea and things like that. So we were always connected to the rest of the church. But we always had our own distinct governance and our own traditions. So people kind of like, they get annoyed when like they go to like a Latin Rite Mass and then they come to Chaldean church and it's different. It's like they're insulted. Like, how dare you do something different than that other church down the street? Like, we've been doing this for thousands of years. What are you talking about? Like, let there be some variety and some beauty.
Yeah, the liturgy itself is actually older than the
way older
Latin Rite liturgy.
Older, yeah. It's older even the liturgy of Trent, the sort of TLM. What is it, 500 years? Okay, that has roots that go back very far. When was our last reform before these modern ones? Was it 685 AD? That was like the new mass, like the reform of Isha'yab. So now like we've been doing this for thousands of years, and now because you went to St. Bernadette Church and it's different, I have to change my entire tradition to not annoy you or inconvenience you that you have to learn something new. Come on. Like, how self-centered can
Yeah, and I would encourage people to learn something new and pray in a new way, especially Chaldean Catholics, and from other churches.
These prayers have produced thousands of saints and martyrs.
Yeah.
Give it a chance.
And if there's like, Chaldean Catholics listening that are here, local in San Diego, I think all of our churches here pray this before daily mass in the evening, like the evening prayer.
You guys do it? Oh, you don't have the other mass in the evening?
Oh,
We do.
But it's in Arabic.
Oh, it's Arabic. Okay, that's the problem.
yeah.
No comment.
So just like
I'm not the pastor.
I know.
You
We'll
can
pray.
you can pay attention to the church's schedules, but there's like Sunday morning prayer that we'll pray out of this book. So if you want to learn how to do it, you can come and participate with the clergy and the servers to learn how to do it.
Did you guys start it yet?
We started it,
Nice.
yeah, man, with all
Did they
of
like
our St. Michael altar kids and the English choir and other people that come. Yeah, they love it, man.
Good.
It's just, there's a couple, like we have to pay
New
close
things.
attention
Yeah.
to
We
the
do too.
words because
I
of
do too. I
the
did it.
translations, but
The app,
we love
the
it, man.
Emmanuel prayer app is being updated currently.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
person who runs it is working on it very hard, so it'll be updated to basically exactly this fairly soon.
Okay.
And then there's a whole website. This is the part that like I knew that this wasn't going to do it. Just publishing a book, it didn't rest easy in my heart because there's all these melodies. I mean, let me give an example. There's a melody, like let's just open to a random page, and you have here, this is like 218, for example, page 218. Hymns after, it's in italics.
Yeah.
You can zoom in or whatever. And then here, this is the name of the melody. So you're not going to know how to sing this if you don't know this melody. So to me, I was like, how are people going to learn this? Well, they're going to learn it by recordings. And so there's an entire website, beforeandafter.cc, an entire website you can click around page by page, and you can learn every melody that's there. It's all recorded there for you. So singing is a lot of it. I mean, a lot of the beauty of that Ramsha that was 20-something, 30-something years ago. How long was it? Whatever. Almost 30 years ago. Was the music of it.
Yeah.
It wasn't just the words, it was the music. So the
It
music
just adds
is there.
like a nice flavor.
Yeah.
It just moves the heart in a different way.
Yeah.
So the
beautiful.
Marmitha is to be prayed before the psalm, the psalmody. Or is that the same thing?
What page are you on?
69. Like the cycle for weekday evening prayer.
But that's the old version.
So the original.
This
so
is
there's
good to
so there's the
explain.
Emmanuel Bishop Sarhad and our St. Peter Diocese. A lot of us worked on it. Reformed version of the prayer that's kind of streamlined and organized in a kind of more logical way. But if somebody doesn't want to do that, there's also the original old Hodra version of the prayer. So if somebody wants to pray the Marmitha is just a set of psalms, just kind of, I don't want to say randomly selected, but they are randomly selected for each day of the 2-week cycle. So if you want to pray them, they're right here. Yeah. And it's part of it. You'll see in the ordinary where you do it.
Got you.
Yeah. Yep. So it's all there. If somebody wants to do this, you can do that.
Reform in here too.
Yep. And you also have the shorter prayers.
Man.
Yep.
Yeah, it's cool.
And then the entire Psalter. This was the hardest thing to translate. The whole book of Psalms is here with all the little like prayers in between that are attributed to actually Mar Abba, the seminary patron. And then all of the Anyathat Sadeh.
Yeah.
This is very hard too. And all of them are singable. You can sing all of them in original melody.
Remember during Chai Chat, we used to sing a hymn every time from.
That was your idea, man. You love cheesy
I know,
stuff like
man.
that.
So there's a lot of different ways to pray. Why should people pray like this, specifically Chaldean Catholics?
Pray like this.
Why should they pray like this?
You don't have to. If somebody like tries this and it's not their thing, unless you're a clergyman or a religious, this is not binding to you. This is like illegal. We sort of legally have to pray this canonically as clergy and as religious. If not, if it's like not your thing, that's okay. Go pray something that you like. Read the Bible or just sit silently or pray the rosary.
Yeah,
Whatever.
but I definitely think it should be kind of surprising to people, and it should show them the importance of it, that we are required to pray it.
Oh, yeah.
Like it kind of shows how important this type of prayer is to the church.
This is the official prayer of the Church of the East. All the official prayer. Everything else is awesome. If it connects you to God, great. But officially speaking, this is the prayer of any church. So in the Latin Church, their breviary, that is the official prayer of the Latin Church. Well, what about this? What about that? These are all awesome devotional prayers. They make the heart beat with love of God. They're amazing, and we should all do them. But the official form of prayer is this: is the ours. And every tradition in the apostolic churches has their own version of this, and that's the official. Now, on top of that, why should they give it a chance? Because it's gorgeous. It's an absolute masterpiece of prayer.
Yeah.
There's it has really, and as I said, it's formed thousands of martyrs and saints. So have other prayers? Yeah, absolutely. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine, but give it a chance and let it form you and let it kind of change your taste a little bit. And the people that have attempted it, that like, oh, I never really give it a chance, and now I'm going to give it a chance, and they really give it a chance. A lot of times it's like, whoa, I had no idea. I just thought it was blah, blah, blah. I was told that it was blah, blah, blah. I was told that it was boring or repetitive or whatever. And then I tried it and it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Or I tried it 5 years ago and I found it repetitive, but I'm going to try it again today. And I guess the repetition makes sense now.
And it's not repetitive the whole time. I mean, there's some repetition with the Psalms. And like, those are the Psalms. I mean, they're...
The part that's repeated is important.
Yeah.
It's repeated because it's worth saying.
Jesus would pray like that, right? Isn't that
as
safe
far
to
as
say?
we know, the early Jewish prayer of his time was very repetitive.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was the same Psalms every
Like
day,
in
morning and
the agony in the garden, like after the Last Supper, before they went to the garden, it says that they chanted a hymn.
Yeah, it was probably a psalm.
And it was probably a psalm.
Yeah. In addition to that, there are some scholars that I've seen argue, including Bishop Sarhad, but other ones as well, argue that the set of psalms that was prayed every morning by Jews in Jesus' time, which means possibly even by Jesus, was what we pray on Sunday on morning prayer. And the set of psalms in the evening that was repeated every day was probably Psalm 140 and 141 and the selection from 118. It's very possible Jesus himself prayed these repeated ones every day.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
The 118 to 123, I think there's not much actually debate about that was being said during the Last Supper.
Your word is a lamp for my feet.
Yeah, especially 118. That's they're called the Hallel Psalms.
So that's already there. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing that there's the Psalms, so the biblical prayers, but then also from the Chaldean church fathers, the writings and kind of, I remember Bishop Sarhad explaining it as like kind of the extension of the scriptures and like, or the interpretation of it, like it becoming practicalized in our life now. Like we take the scriptures and we express it in this beautiful, deep way.
That's what these anyatha are.
Yeah.
So you have to know what's going on here to like understand why it's worth even considering praying Liturgy of the Hours. First of all, this gives a schedule to the day where it baptizes the day. It sets the day apart through hours to make time holy, to sanctify our time. So that's cool. And yeah, you can do that in a variety of different ways, like by praying your own individual prayers, praying the rosary, or anything like that. But with this, what are you doing? What are we doing when we open these and chant these prayers? It's Psalms, so we're reflecting on Scripture, and then we're reflecting on what our church fathers said about Scripture. So it's not just a commentary in that sense. It's a spiritual application, kind of like you're saying right now, Father Simon. So that's what we're doing. What's in this book? That's what's in this book. Like that's the schedule of prayer.
What's the Psalter part? Can you explain that?
The Psalter is the book of Psalms.
Yeah.
So I translated that directly from the Gushma, the Syriac, because the text of the Pshutta, that this is taken from the Pshutta, is an old Aramaic translation of the Bible. That translation has some insights. It's very possible that whoever was translating the Psalms and other books of the Bible for that edition, for the Pshutta, had Hebrew manuscripts of the original that we don't have today.
Oh, wow.
So there's insights, there's ways to nuance it. There's sort of interpretive keys that are there in the Aramaic that are maybe not there in a kind of modern English translation or in the Greek Septuagint version of the Psalms. So I said, okay, let me just translate it directly. And what I noticed translating the Psalms directly is that they're very in your face. And translations very often will soften them. And they'll say like, kind of like make it a little more like, I don't want to say nuance. It's not really nuance. They make it a little bit less impactful. And when I translate it, I'm like, no, if it says that like something about your enemies and whatever, this is what the Psalm says. I don't want to like give you something other than what the Psalm says. So I try to translate as directly as I can, you know? So they're kind of more impactful in that way, but they're also more surprising in the same way. In addition to that, there are prayers, you were saying the kind of Christian comments added, prayers between the Psalms.
Like the red stuff.
And then the red antiphons that were added. And then there's also an organization of the Psalter into hulale, which is generally 3 marmiyatha. So there's a marmitha, which is generally 3 psalms. And then 3 or 4 of those is one hulala.
Okay.
And that divides the entire Psalter so that mostly monks would be able to pick it up and they felt like they had to pray the whole Psalter every week or every month or something like that. So they would have an organized way to do that. Okay, so there's 21 hulale, different marmiyatha. So these are kind of nice things that are part of our tradition.
So that's what this prayer was originally used for. It was by the monks, right?
The hulale was in fact, it was not just monastic. It looks like each monastery, each like kind of monastery system had its own organization of how to pray the Psalms.
Oh, okay.
And that's why when they finally did a printed edition of the Khudra, I wonder if we have it here. When they did the printed edition of the Khudra, they realized all these different manuscripts of the Khudra have a different organization for the hulale. And so they just sort of picked one that made sense and they put it in. It's also, this is very like not
nerdy?
important, but it's a very nerdy thing. it looks like the division into Marmitha, the Marmitha divisions, is older than the Hulala divisions, even though it's smaller. There's only 3 psalms per Marmitha, and there's like something like whatever that would be, a lot more into a Hulala. It looks like the smaller division was earlier, and then the larger division was later. That's what the commentators say.
I love the prayers. I actually started to go through the Psalter a little bit, like every day in my holy hours.
No, a year after I had you, I wanted you to like look through it and find mistakes. You like it?
Yeah, man. I love the prayers in between are like warm-ups to the psalm.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like it says, make us worthy, O Lord our God, to be guided by the virtuous habits that please your majesty. Yeah. Like that's so sick.
Yep.
So if people want this book, where can they get it?
You can get it on Amazon, or you can go to St. Peter's has them in their gift shop. I provided them to St. John's. I don't know if they're going to be available yet.
It will be at St. Michael's gift shop too as well.
And then you can grab some for St. Joseph. So any of the parishes in San Diego. I sent some to one of the parishes in NorCal. Eventually we'll have them in all of our parishes in our diocese. But you can always get it on Amazon.
Any discount code?
I wish. I mean, the thing is, you don't get a book that's whatever 700 almost pages on Bible paper. That's what's kind of hard. The printing on this paper is very difficult. In red and black with ribbons and
it's
sewn.
A beautiful book,
you don't get this for cheap. Yeah. So it's $50. That's as cheap as I could make it. I don't make any money on this. So it's as cheap as we could make it. It's not bad. I mean, for a book like this,
that's a great price.
It's pretty good.
It's very good.
I would love it for it to be, $15 and everybody has 4 in their house. But
there's
no way to do it. Inflation,
but that's cheap. Like with inflation, that's a good price.
It is a good price.
And a lot of it, you said, is going to be on the app. All of it, right? Most of it.
A lot of it is going to be updated. So I mean, even the app right now, the Emmanuel Prayer app. We should put links to all this in the description. Even the Emmanuel Prayer app right now is like 99%, 95% exactly like this. All that's being updated is those couple words you're noticing are different. In the newer translation, that's all we're updating. Yeah.
So they can get the Emmanuel app or this book and pray evening prayer, morning prayer with the whole Chaldean church.
Yep.
And even if they want, there are shortened versions of it.
Yeah. So if you go to shorter prayer, there's a section in the book with the shorter version of the prayer, and then there's an app, part of the app that has the shorter prayer. So if it's like, I don't want to know if I can pay attention for 15, 20 minutes at a time. Okay, pray the shorter prayer. It's like 3-4 minutes. Work your way up.
If you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even all our viewers from like Argentina can be able to access this and
we have viewers in Argentina?
be able to reach.
Do we have that?
Is that true?
You know?
I just made that up.
You never know, man.
But I'm just
If
saying.
there's
marketing
anybody
people
from Argentina, please comment.
Comment below, yeah, please.
Or from
If
like South
somebody
America.
comments from Argentina that we can verify, I'm going to buy you something.
Wow.
Like this is a bit now.
Yeah, I did it for the bit.
You did it for the bit.
But yeah, it's cool. Father Andy, thank you for.
Thank you, man.
Okay, whatever. Can we
Thank
eat?
you, man. Are you guys
Thanks,
hungry?
man.
I'm
Where's our
starving.
food, man. Father Simon, what is the name of this place we're eating right now?
This place is called Rise Southern Biscuits, I think.
Oh, it's
This is
Nashville,
crazy.
Nashville chicken, right?
This is like comfort food.
This is
And comfort food, I guess, is like really heavy.
It's my favorite kind of food.
Father Tristan was trying to be healthy, and then you do this to him.
We had a whole controversy today where Father Tristan said that he's not going to eat on the show.
Father Andy, you wanted this.
Yeah,
Like, look at the sandwich, guys. Look at the sandwich.
Check out these jalapeno
What's in this
things.
one?
Fried
What is it?
Fried jalapenos.
Fried
Oh my God.
jalapenos. Oh, wow.
Where's the knife?
I have a knife right here. I'm going to cut this one.
I think grits are a very underrated food.
This is like your style food, Father Andy, right?
yeah.
Like, what is that, bro?
And they cut it
Oh,
for us.
my.
Oh. Country fried chicken.
Yeah,
Right?
it's just deep fried chicken.
But like it's the thing that
What kind of like sauce is that one? Is it like a red sauce?
this?
Yeah.
I don't know, I haven't tried it.
Try this. So I heard there was some basketball happening.
That's
Yeah.
I heard somebody was talking big.
Have you ever seen a priest talk smack in the middle of mass?
Wasn't in the middle.
In a mass.
Wasn't in the middle.
It was at the
You have to explain because I can't imagine that.
it was at the end of mass
Okay.
where Father Tristan told the whole congregation
About to sign up for the freedom competition.
That he was gonna beat me in a 3-point contest,
Okay. So how'd it go?
and he obviously lost
Why? Obviously.
because he's sad right now.
was really close.
And he
tried.
choked, dude. I had a bad first round. It was gonna be our only round. I only got 7 points.
How do I
Guys, this one's really good, really spicy though.
switch this with that?
Here, guys, there's like an egg one here and stuff. Wait, what is? Oh,
This is chicks and grits.
chicks and grits.
Chicken grits. And
Try
this.
this.
This has an egg on it.
You guys want to try this Nashville one? Of
Yeah, I do.
So, Father Tristan, was it humbling for you to lose to Father Simon?
course it was. In life, there's lessons everywhere that can lead us closer to God. I was really.
I wanted you to win, bro. Kind of, you know. Like, you know, I'm very competitive, but
Give me another.
like I wanted you to make one shot on that last round. Then he made one, and he made a
found him a
couple in a
shot.
row. But I don't know what happened, bro.
I choked.
But the worst was your brother Aiden. I was like, who do you think is gonna win? He said Father Tristan, 100%. He was very confident in you.
All the kids were cheering for you too. Honestly, it was like home court advantage, but
Yeah.
it really wasn't. You know.
So the question is, are you gonna do it again next year versus me? After 2 years in a row of losing?
Yeah, but as we can see, 3-peats aren't really a thing. So I think next year I'll win.
Is that a sports reference?
Yeah.
This chicken is really good.
There's so much stuff, bro.
Where is this place?
It was by San Diego State, right?
Yeah, I think so.
You said David is part of this? Your
Yeah,
uncle?
sure, yeah.
David Sissy? Shout out to David, man.
It's really, really good.
What do you think, Father Simon?
I love it, bro.
Yanni?
I love it, man.
And you, like,
What about dessert, man?
I'm gonna, bro,
you
I know
love this
there's
kind
a-
of food, you gotta go there.
I'm gonna add the
Biscuits.
bib, bro.
Oh, yeah, we forgot about the bibs.
Sorry about the bibs, man. So, what are
What is
these,
this?
bro?
Let's see what this is.
What is this, dude? Look at this. What's
It's like
this?
a tater tot?
Yeah, but it has cheese in it.
That's Southern food, man. It's like it starts out with something really unhealthy and like, let's make it even more healthy. This is
There's the blueberry thing.
This is an egg sandwich with sausage and it's a
No
blueberry.
way.
Wow.
Here, this is you.
I mean, I'll just take a piece of it.
Yeah.
I'll do a piece of that too, man.
Oh, whoa.
You got it? You caught yourself? I'm glad you caught yourself. Yeah.
Multiple ways.
Where's that knife?
Biscuits are like 80% 80% butter.
Yeah. God bless you all. Thank you for watching.
Yeah.